Hello and welcome back to AB in Focus. Today we turn our minds to the property sector here in Dubai, something of a success story over the past year. And joining us here today we have Simon Baker, the Managing Director of Haus. Simon, thank you for joining me and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, it's very exciting.
So over the past year, particularly in the luxury segment, we've seen the property market skyrocket in Dubai. In some parts of Dubai, such as the Palm, for instance, prices up over 100%.
Yeah.
Is that something that we should begin to be worried about? Are there signs of a bubble over the horizon?
I mean, I think we were talking very specifically about a very certain segment of the market, a very small segment of the market, which is all driven by demand, and that demand's obviously increased significantly after COVID and continued to. Prices have obviously escalated a lot. I mean, that is, if you look at the bigger picture, it is something to do with the fact that prices were very depressed over COVID. So just looking at the last 2 to 3 years is probably not quite a fair representation. It would probably be better to look at maybe the last sort of 5 or 10 years, maybe, as to get a fairer picture on where we sit, in the last 20-year history of the Dubai freehold market, I would say.
And what do you think in terms of the price point for Dubai in comparison to some of its global peers? For instance, if I'm an international property investor looking at buying something in, say, London in comparison to Dubai, how does Dubai sit? Okay,
so interestingly, we were looking at average prices. So obviously, first you mentioned, the luxury segment, which is in a market of its own almost. If you're looking at average pricing compared to London or any major city, Dubai is still significantly cheaper. So, prime central London prices, you're looking at sort of up to £3,000 a square foot, whereas here on the average property you're looking at about £400. So there's still a huge difference, and I think that's where the opportunity lies in Dubai. I think there's a huge scope for people to be buying properties that can still generate 7-8% net returns, and that's based on today's rates as well.
That's a very positive answer you give there. That sounds like you're buoyant on the property market overall. Would that be a fair assumption to make?
Yes, I think so. I think Dubai has done very, very well out of COVID, and we've heard a lot about all the measures in terms of increasing business and making visas even easier to obtain and all these things. Combine that with the fact that you've got political and economic instability in some parts of Europe and around the world, and Dubai suddenly looks very, very attractive. I think we were discussing just yesterday, if you were going to move from, Western Europe, where you wanted to choose somewhere to go, the list is getting shorter and shorter in terms of, very attractive places with, huge tax benefits obviously here, which is bringing, significant immigration to the country.
It's interesting you bring up that question of global instability in comparison to Dubai and the UAE. Would you say there's an argument to be made that when the global economy seems to be slowing down, or there's macroeconomic headwinds, that's actually almost credited positive for Dubai as an area of stability?
I think in the past it certainly has done. Yeah, certainly there's been periods where Dubai's benefited from whether it's political or economic instability, and Dubai's seen as a safe haven. It's seen as somewhere that you can conduct business, very simply. It's very in terms of geographical location, Emirates has done an amazing job at bringing people through Dubai. We're meeting more and more people that might have travelled through, the UAE as a hub, but have never actually got off the plane and visited the country. And more that have done so in the last year or two, post-COVID, have discovered what a great place it is,
Play devil's advocate for me here, though. Where are the challenges? What are the pitfalls that we should be watching out for?
I mean, the challenges right now for a lot of buyers are looking to pick up units, and the number of the quality units, not from, the quality developers, whether you're looking at the off-plan market or the ready market, is few and far between, so sellers are demanding prices and really calling the shots. So that's probably the biggest challenge right now on the ground for us estate agents is securing people those units. I think as a tip for clients, you find an estate agent who's really got your back in terms of having all your best interests at heart and working closely with someone you trust, as opposed to just running around the market, looking at any option. I think it's really important to really secure. There's probably 5 to 10% of the market you should be looking at, and that's important to really narrow down on.
You mentioned buyers there, and as you mentioned, you guys are on the ground there. How have you seen the buyers' demographic change? What differences have you seen in terms of who's actually coming to Dubai to buy?
Okay, so I think over the post-COVID, all the measures that the government have put in place so effectively has brought more people here that are coming with a much more longer term view. They're people who are looking to buy to live in, or certainly for very long-term investment. We get very few speculators who come to us, a bit like some people will remember back in 2007, 2008, and people were buying to sell it the week later. That's quite rare now. Most people are either long-term investors who are very happy with, as I mentioned, strong rental yields, or they're homeowners who are looking to secure somewhere to live for the foreseeable, for the next 5 or 10 years. And I would always advise someone that property should be a long-term investment and not something that's a speculation, you know.
That sounds positive to me, but I'm not really the expert here. Is that a good thing for the market overall?
Certainly is. I think 100%. I think as we reach, Dubai's only had a freehold market, we have to remember, for 20 years now, just over. And as we reach that anniversary, I think it's this, market stability is really exciting. It sounds a bit boring, but it's something that over long term is what we want for a property market. We don't want to see these huge property spikes in price. Of course, if you just look since COVID, it looks like the prices have spiked a lot, especially on the Palm and in various luxury communities. But again, that's because you haven't seen the previous 3 or 4 years up until COVID. So I think when you look at the big picture, today I was looking at a graph from Property Monitor, who provide fantastic insights into all the DLD data and really make sense of that information. And the price, on average, the price is about the same today as it was in 2016. So you're talking about 7 years later, and the price is about the same as it was 7 years later. So I think that's quite interesting to give perspective to the whole thing, and not maybe dive too much into what's happened in the last 12 or 18 months.
You mentioned the DLD there, which actually prompts me on a question. You mentioned before we started this interview, you have years of experience in this market. How do you think the regulation of the market and of the property market has changed it? Has it been for the better? What does that look like in terms of that equation for buyers and for sellers?
I think in the real world, the market's changed dramatically. When I first started selling property here in 2005, a transfer was a trip to Emaar with, buyer and seller, and hopefully there was some form of agreement in place, but not always. I mean, today, the RERA and Dubai Land Department has done an amazing job at regulating, all the process, everything from escrow accounts for developers to make sure that buyers' money's safe, through to, all the right forms. Us brokers now all have to use Form A, Form B, and Form F, which are all the online, the form for a seller, the form for a buyer, and the contract between the two of them. So the regulation is, chalk and cheese. If you look at the last 20 years, it's come on so far, and that's again going to help to regulate the market, make it a more secure place for people to do business, and hopefully for the long run, it will make Dubai real estate market a lot better place to operate in.
And speaking of doing business and operating, I believe you guys recently released your investor's guide. What kind of insights are in the report? What takeaways did you find? Okay,
so I think a lot of the information in our investment guide has been the same. I mean, we're not trying to rewrite the wheel. We're giving information as to what makes Dubai such an attractive place. Taxation being a big part of that. We mentioned earlier safety and security. That everything from schooling to healthcare is absolutely top notch in this city, and so credit to the government for providing those services at such a high level. So a lot of these factors haven't changed, but I think over the last couple of years, especially with COVID and certain political and economic instability in Europe and different places around the world, suddenly when those buyers have pushed a breaking point, let's say in Western Europe, where they say, right, I can't do this anymore, they look to where's the next best option, like we mentioned. And I think Dubai comes very, very high up that list in terms of lifestyle, in terms of ease of setting up business here, the ability to be able to move here, buy a property, start a business, get visas for your family and your children. So all these aspects make it quite an exciting place to move to.
Well, I assume it must be exciting for you because you've been here for a while, which prompts me to talk and ask you to give us a peek behind the curtain at Haus about how things are going there in terms of the growth. I understand you guys are opening a new office, integrating more technology. Talk to me about that journey and about how you've arrived there.
Okay, so yeah, the last couple of years we grew the company steadily for the last 10 years. It's our 10-year anniversary this year. We're very excited at the end of last year to open a new office, which we opened on the 2nd of January, which adds about 40% more space, allowing all of our teams to grow. So everything from our residential sales, off-plan sales, long-term leasing, holiday rental department, which has become pivotal to supporting investors, property management, commercials. All of these teams have now got the ability to grow. So it's a very exciting time at Haus. We've even managed to get a coffee shop in there, which is a friend of mine, Mr. Tom Arnell, who's from Encounter fame. So that's providing us with some refreshments in the office, and open to the public as well if you'd like to drop by for a coffee and a chat about your portfolio.
Or indeed to talk about upcoming developments, which of course is a question that I'm going to have to ask you. What are you excited about looking forward? What are you? As
a business, we've just launched one exclusive development called La Perla, which is a section of luxury townhouses with swimming pools and private elevators at a very, very competitive price in Jumeirah Village Circle, which we mentioned earlier. In terms of the wider Dubai, there's lots of big new master developments coming from the big developers. The likes of EMA are launching new master projects, which will be coming pretty soon, next few months. Again, that's going to be supply that you're going to be seeing come to the market in sort of 2027, 2028. So there's a long-term plan for this city.
And finally, I just want to give you the opportunity here. What message would you give to investors, both international and local and regional as well? What would you say about Dubai's real estate sector, seeing what we've seen over the past couple of years?
I think overall, the overriding factor is the fact that Dubai has got a vision for the future. Compared to many political parties around the world that struggle to stay in power for a certain amount of time, the Dubai government has laid out plans for 2040. Recently, they've laid out an economic plan for the next 50 years till 2073. So I think they've really got the vision there. The plan to make Dubai the best city in the world, to have a population of 6 million people by 2040, which would effectively double what it is today. I think that provides huge opportunity. I think if you buy into the idea of where Dubai is going, then I think you'll, Dubai real estate would be would be an easy option to say yes to.
Well, Simon, on that positive note for us here in Dubai, I thank you very much for joining us here today.
Thank you for having me. Cheers.